Imagine being at a Canada Day party, surrounded by friends and family, when suddenly a killer starts attacking the guests. This is the story of the horror party. Are you ready to dive into this nightmare? Press play and come with us. It was July 1st, and the small town of Maplewood was in celebration. The streets were decorated with red and white flags, and all the residents were excited to celebrate Canada Day. The Thompson family decided to throw a big party at their house, inviting friends, neighbors, and relatives to celebrate. Their house, located in a quiet neighborhood, quickly filled with people, laughter, and music. It seemed that nothing could ruin that perfect day. The party started early, with a barbecue in the backyard and games for the kids. The adults gathered in groups, chatting and enjoying cold drinks. Everything was going smoothly until dusk, when a stranger appeared at the party. He didn't seem to belong to the neighborhood, but no one thought it was strange, assuming he was a friend of some guest. He was tall, wore a cap that shaded his face, and blended in easily among the guests. As the night progressed, the stranger began to behave oddly. He closely observed the people, especially those who were alone. In a moment of distraction, one of the guests, Jenny, disappeared. Her absence was noticed when her boyfriend, Mike, started looking for her. He found her body in the backyard shed with an expression of pure terror frozen on her face. Jenny was dead, and Mike let out a scream that echoed throughout the party, silencing the music and laughter. Panic quickly took over the party. People started running and screaming, trying to find an exit. The news of Jenny's death spread like wildfire, and the Thompson house turned into chaos. The killer, taking advantage of the confusion, began to chase other guests. Fear was on everyone's faces, and no one knew who would be next. The killer, moving with agility and precision, continued to attack. He used sharp knives and moved silently like a predator stalking its prey. The guests tried to hide wherever they could: closets, rooms, basements, but the killer always seemed to find them. Every scream heard throughout the house indicated another lost life. Some guests, desperate to survive, decided to band together and confront the killer. They built a barricade in the living room, using furniture and anything they could find. But the killer was relentless. He broke through the windows and doors, advancing steadily. In a desperate act, the guests began throwing objects at him, trying to buy time to escape. But the fight was uneven, and the number of survivors quickly dwindled. In the kitchen, Laura, one of the survivors, found a phone and managed to call the police. With a trembling voice, she explained the situation, and they promised to send help immediately. While waiting, Laura and the other survivors heard the killer's footsteps approaching. The tension was palpable, and everyone held their breath, expecting the worst. When the killer finally entered the kitchen, Laura and the others attacked him with everything they had. The fight was fierce, and they managed to wound him, but not enough to stop him. He reacted violently, and the kitchen quickly turned into a nightmare scene. Just when it seemed all was lost, the distant sound of police sirens could be heard. The police arrived quickly, but the killer had already disappeared into the night. The officers found a scene of horror: bodies scattered around the house, blood on the walls, and traumatized survivors. Laura, covered in blood and in shock, was taken to a hospital along with the other survivors. The Canada Day party, which was supposed to be a joyful celebration, ended in an indescribable tragedy. The news of the horror party spread quickly throughout the town and the country, shocking everyone. The police launched a manhunt for the killer, but he seemed to have vanished without a trace. Laura, while recovering in the hospital, couldn't shake the horrific images of that night. Her dreams were haunted by the faces of the friends she lost and the dark figure of the killer who was still at large. Leave your comment below if you want to know part 2 of this story. If you have a horror story and want to see it published on our channel, send us your story.